Hi, everybody. So welcome to the speakers and welcome to the attendees of this workshop. So we can start, we are right on time. So thank you very much for attending this workshop talking about energy transition on European islands. We will be talking today about the Clean Energy Island initiatives and about the great innovations that are being brought by Research and Innovation Project or Horizon 2020 project on European islands. So I would like to introduce our speakers today. Let me show the agenda of the workshop. So my name is Sophie Dourlans-Carentin. I'm working for R2M Solutions. I will represent today the NESOI project, the EU Island Facility, and we have 5 other projects that are going to be presented today. So we have the NESOI project represented by Stefano Barberis. We have the GIFT project represented by Sasho Bruce. We have the Robinson project represented by Ugo Simeoni.
Hello.
We have the SMILE project presented again by Stefano Barberis. And we have the REACT project represented by Thomas Mesove from R2M Solutions and Andrew Barney from the University of Uppsala. And
Hello.
After these presentations, we will have some roundtable discussions about 2 cross-cutting topics: how to engage islanders in the energy transition and how to stimulate islands' long-term energy strategy. So I'm going to open session 1. Actually, it was unfortunately not possible for a European Commission representative to attend, so I'm going to present myself the Clean Energy Island Initiative very quickly, and then I will present the EU Island Facility, NESOI. So I invite the speakers to switch off their camera for the moment. Okay, so just a few words about the Clean Energy Island initiative. What is it? So it's part of the Clean Energy for All European package. And it started because, well, actually 15 million of Europeans live on islands. There are in total 2,400 islands, inhabited islands in Europe. And there is a strong belief that the islands have the potential to be front runners in the clean energy transition. And this strong belief is not only supported by the European Commission, but also by member states that have signed a political declaration in 2017 and also a memorandum of understanding a few months ago to support cooperation to identify common solutions and best practices, helping islands facing common challenges. So what is, concretely speaking, this Clean Energy Island initiative? So it's a long-term framework to help islands generate their own sustainable low-cost energy, and it aims at reducing energy costs, increasing the production of renewable energy, building energy storage facilities, developing demand response, improving energy security, improving air quality and reducing the impact on the environment, and creating new jobs, business opportunities, and in general economic growth in island regions. So how does it work? There are 3 main instruments for the Clean Energy Island initiative. So first, the Clean Energy for EU Islands Secretariat. And the aim of the Secretariat is to facilitate the clean energy transition on islands by supporting and providing assistance to project preparation to Europe's island communities, and in particular, supporting islands to develop energy transition plans. There are the Clean Energy for EU Islands forums that are regularly organized since 2017, in general 2 forums per year, and they provide islands the opportunity to share best practices, showcase innovative projects in the area of energy transition in general and research and innovation. And finally, the third instrument is the European Island Facility, which aims to fund around 60 energy transition projects and to mobilize 100 million euros of investments within the next 3 years. So a very ambitious project. And I'm going to present now this project. Just before starting this presentation, let me remind that you can ask some questions you have for this question box on the right of your screen. And do not hesitate if you have any questions to write it down, and we'll address questions at the end of each session or each presentation. So coming now to NESOI, the European Island Facility. So what's the raison d'être of NESOI? So it is this challenge for islands. The key challenge actually for local authorities on islands is to transform their overall long-term ambitions into concrete projects and plans and concrete investments. And it is the purpose of NESOI to bridge this gap between the island's ambitions, what they would like to do to implement energy transition, and the how to concretely finance and find investors to make these projects a reality. This slide shows the partnership of NESOI. You can see that we have partners in many countries, and especially in countries with a lot of islands. So what's the goals of NESOI? So we want to promote investments for energy transition in the islands, to facilitate the decentralization of energy systems so that islands can progressively gain energy independence and contribute to EU policies. And the main results that we want to obtain, and we are working really always, we always have this objective in mind, is to activate 100 million investments in the island project. So how do we do that? So first, at EU level, we have run a very broad survey, and I'm going to talk about that in one of the next slides. We are creating a platform for exchange of best practices. We are providing coaching and capacity building activities for local authorities on islands and other stakeholders. And very concretely, on island level, we are providing on-site technical assistance. And in fact, this technical assistance is provided by NESOI experts. And we are also providing some cascade funding. So we have in total more than 3 million euros to be allocated to local authorities and other project promoters to finance complementary technical assistance activities. So how does it work very concretely? We are organizing calls for proposals, and we have the first NESOI call that is currently open. Then we are providing these technical assistance activities, and the aim of these technical assistance activities is finally to reach concrete project implementation. So, as I said, we have started the project with a broad survey in order to understand island needs. So this survey was structured with two main sections. One section was about the island in general and the situation of the island in terms of energy transition. And then we had a second section in which respondents were invited already to provide some preliminary information about their energy transition project. And as you can see, we have been very successful with this survey. We have received more than, we have received 128 answers to this first section, and the number of islands concerned is more than 100. So it's a great material that we have received to be able to understand the needs of islands and the maturity of their projects. Just one slide about the results of the survey to illustrate the variety, the very broad variety of situations on islands in Europe. So from the survey, we know that 40% of the respondents of the islands already have a strategic plan on energy, and 60% do not have such a plan. So it's already an interesting result. So we know that for those who already have an energy transition plan, well, they certainly have some projects, and we know that we can help them to implement their project. And some of them do not have any strategic plan on energy, and in this case, we will help them develop such a plan. So how does it work, and what is the timing? So as I just said, we have opened the first NESOI open call in October. It was open on the 12th of October, and it will close on the 18th of December. And after this date, we will select, well, I'm just going to change slide. Yes. So in January, we will evaluate the proposals that the applications that we will have received, and we will communicate in February the evaluation results to applicants. We will then sign contracts with them, and finally provide these technical assistance activities and this grant for supplementary support. So it's something I want to insist on that, since as I said, so we are providing technical assistance activities. It means that we do not provide grants for project implementation. We provide support in order to make the project promoters able to reach investors, to make their project attractive to investors, can be public investors or private investors. And for this, we have a very competent consortium that is able to provide this technical assistance to islands. And for everything that is, let's say, country specific or even island specific, we will provide some grants in order to hire local experts for very specific competencies that we cannot have in the NESOI consortium. So how will it work? Actually, the applicants are guided in this process. So we have defined technical assistance menus so that each candidate can apply for one of them, each menu combining grants, grant-funded activities, and advisory services. So these technical assistance menus address, let's say, very upstream projects when, well, let's say some situations with low maturity, let's say. So in this case, the support will consist in drafting energy transition roadmap for the island. So this is the number one here. And for the most mature projects, the support will consist in business planning and fund matching. So in this case, it is when the project is already very well defined, and what the project needs is to find the missing money, let's say. And in between, we have different situations, different maturity levels, for which we will provide support to develop a feasibility study, due diligence, support for tendering procedures in public-private partnerships, etc. So everything is very detailed, and the purpose of this technical assistance menu is to make it easy for applicants to prepare their application. Actually, they just have to select which menu is relevant for their project or for their situation. So I'm not going to detail everything here in this slide, just to illustrate that the applicants will be guided in this in their application. So to summarize, when are applications expected? So as I said, the call is already opened. It opened on the 12th of October, and it will run until the 18th of December. Which types of projects does NESOI support? In fact, NESOI does support every sustainable energy related project. So it can be production of energy from renewable sources, can be energy efficiency projects on public assets or on private assets, can be related to energy storage, to smart grids, to district heating and cooling networks, sustainable mobility solutions, energy monitoring management, energy auditing and analysis. Actually, it's everything that can have an impact on the energy system in the island. Who can apply to receive NESOI support? In fact, it's every island in European member states or in UK, including outermost region, but excluding overseas countries and territories. And the applicants can be typically local authorities, municipalities, for instance, but they can also be private companies, provided that they have a letter of support from the relevant public authority, and it can be one or more legal entities, can be a consortium, for instance, applying. But what is really important is, well, it has to be on an island in one of the member states of the European Union or in UK. How to seek support in case of questions. So we have a very good document that has been published on the website of NESOI. So it's a guidelines for applicants. It's very well written, very clear, very, let's say, user-friendly. So I encourage every applicant to give a look to it, and it's very clear, and there is a description of the technical assistance menu that is provided in these guidelines. And in case you don't find your answers in these documents, you can also contact us through the help desk, and that is also on the NESOI website. And we also have some frequently asked questions that are displayed on the website of the project. So that's what I wanted to present for NESOI. I hope this is clear. Of course, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask. So I see that there are already some questions in the question box. So I'm going to give a look to these questions, but perhaps first we can launch a poll. So we have a short poll for you. So Elena, can you please launch the poll? So the poll is about what is the most important in fostering energy transition projects on islands, knowing more about clean energy solutions, knowing more about financial instruments, learning how to overcome legal and procedural issues, being able to engage citizens, or being able to develop an overall energy transition plan. So perhaps we can give 1 minute, and in parallel, I'm checking the question. Elena, can we display the results? Okay. So what's the most important in fostering energy transition projects on islands? So knowing more about clean energy solutions is not important, according to respondents. And legal and procedural issues, neither. And the most important is to be able to develop an overall energy transition plan. So that's an interesting answer. So for islands which do not have such a plan yet, and we have equal shares for knowing more about financial instruments and being able to engage citizens. So that's quite interesting. And we are going to talk about how to engage citizens in the energy transition. This is one of the topics of the last session of this workshop. So interesting. And okay, so interesting. And I will share the results with NESOI partners. So I would like to come to the questions that we have received. So a question first about UK. Is it still part of the program? So yes, it is. So it is something that we have checked with the European Commission, because of course this is a question that we usually receive about UK. So yes, it's still part of the program, meaning that islands from UK are eligible, but UK as such, or let's say Great Britain or Ireland as, let's say, big islands themselves are not eligible because they are too big. So, but the islands that are part of the country are eligible. We have another question about the ratio between money and services. Is there already a predetermined ratio between money and services? So the answer is, well, actually, yes. We have some indication about the grant and the services that could be allocated to each project, and this is specified in the technical assistance menu. So for each type of project, depending on its level of maturity, there is a predetermined, well, it's a range. Actually, it's not an absolute amount, but it's a range of grants. For instance, it can be between 20 and 30K, and a range also for the value of the advisory services that are going to be provided. So it can be, for instance, between 40 and 50K. What is important is that each project can receive maximum 60K for the grant and an equivalent value of 60K for the advisory services from NESOI experts. So this is what we should have in mind. And there is another question about is the technical assistance provided by NESOI comprising design calculation of project sizing if a feasibility study is proposed? And if not, can you be more specific on the assistance provided by NESOI? So yes, I would say that this type of activity can be part of NESOI support, and that's why we have technical experts in the NESOI consortium, so they are able to provide such technical assistance. Now it's difficult to provide a very precise answer because it has to be checked in the technical assistance menu. But yeah, at first sight, I think that what is asked corresponds to something that NESOI can provide. There is another question about the 2 rounds of project calls. As indeed there are two rounds. So the first open call is running now, and it will be in 1 year that we will open the second call. So what's the difference? Actually, every project, every type of project will be eligible for both rounds, but we would like to promote more, let's say, innovative projects during the second round, while in the first round, we expect more, let's say, plug and play projects. But any kind of project will be eligible for the first and for the second round. Okay, so it's already 1:30. So I would like to close session 1, actually. Many thanks for the questions received. I hope that the answers provided are satisfactory, and in case they are not, do not hesitate to connect on NESOI website, where you can find the help desk and every relevant information about the NESOI call. So now that I have presented NESOI, I would like to move to session 2. So here we are going to address some selected topics that are going to be presented by research and innovation projects. So I would like to give the floor first to Stefano Barberis from WINA Consulting, and is going to present the Insulae project, and in particular the PV and BESS integration on islands. So just one moment. So Stefano, you now have the presenter rights.
Thank you, Sophie. I'm going to share my screen. I hope everybody can see it.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, thank you, Sophie, for introducing me. My name is Stefano Barberis. I'm from Rina Consulting, and I'm going today to introduce you what we are doing in the Insule project. Insule project is a project that has been funded 2 years ago in the framework of ES4 2018 call of proposal, and involving several RTO, research organization, and industrial partners from all over Europe. The project is coordinated by CIRSE, and it has the main goal to, foster deployment of innovative digital and renewable solution towards, the testing of them in 3 lighthouse islands that can become a sort of test bench, not only for further islands all around Europe, but also for mainland application. These 3 lighthouse islands are the island of Bornholm in Denmark, the island of Madeira in Portugal, and the island of Unije in the Malilozhny Krk archipelago in Croatia. And I will present you later on something particularly on this island. The goal of Insule, as I said, is to demonstrate innovative technologies. Particularly, we grouped and merged these technologies in 7 replicable use cases that will be also evaluated from a financial point of view via the Insule investment planning tool. That is a tool able to make a sort of not only energetic plan, but also financial plan for the energy transition of the island. In our team, there are also involved 4 follower islands: Tara from Greece, Norderney from Germany, Menorca from the Balearic archipelago in Spain, and Marie-Galante from the over-ocean French archipelago. And these 4 islands will, they will be inspired by the Lighthouse Island to realize their action plans, sustainable energy action plans, also thanks to Insule investment planning tool. As I said, today I will present you particularly what we are doing in the island of Unije. Where is Unije? Unije is in Croatia, as I said, in the archipelago of Malilozhny Krk. Is a very small island, and it is the last part, the terminal island of this archipelago. It is grid connected, so it is grid connected to the national grid. But as this is the terminal part of the grid connection, it suffers of mostly 2 things. The first one is that the connection is quite unstable, and also the fact that as there is an underwater sea cabling, it already happened a few times, many times in the past, that this cable got broken, and unfortunately the island had been disconnected and had to, be supplied by in emergency diesel genset that, as you can imagine, is not the most sustainable and environmental friendly solution. We are talking about, as I said, a very small island with only 80,000 permanent inhabitants. So a very, I would like to say, island and energy community, but the population can achieve more than 500 during the summer period. As I said, in order to solve many issues that I already mentioned of the Unije Island, REA-Kvarner, which is the Kvarner Region Energy Agency, and HEP, which is the Croatian DSO, are currently studying the possibility to install a PV plant in an area of this island that, as you can see, the island is very small and also very strict, but there is only an area inhabited, and this inhabited area is has quite close an empty and played space where REA-Kvarner decided to install a 100.2 megawatt PV installation. Why this PV installation? Of course, as I said, the main issue is to guarantee, in case of any damage of the undersea medium voltage cable, guarantee a local power supply, and at the same time also guarantee a grid stability, because the interconnection with the national grid is not in Unije, but is in Malilozhny, so is in one of the islands of the archipelago. So in that sense, what's happening is that Unije, as the terminal part of this micro grid, suffers of grid instability. In that sense, as I said, happened. React Warner decided to, install this PV plant that will have as expected consumer not only the local islanders of Unije, but maybe also some the surrounding island of Susak, Krakan, and Lošinj, because of course as this will be a PV plant interconnected, this will be the demand of the demand in the island of Unije is obviously lower than 1.2 megawatt. But generally speaking, what both happened, React Warner realized, just for your information, React Warner is of course part of Insule team. They realized the fact that to make this PV plant more effective, the coupling with the battery energy storage system can facilitate a lot. And initially they thought about a 1 megawatt hour battery capacity. So a battery system with 1 megawatt power capacity and 1 megawatt hour power capacity. Actually, RINA Consulting did is supporting in this moment the procurement, the design and the procurement of this battery that will proceed in parallel with the design and installation of the PV plant that is foreseen within the end of 2021. And to size and design at the best the battery energy storage system, what RINA Consulting did is, of course, to understand what could be the best sizing, considering that since the beginning we understood that this 1 megawatt hour capacity was not maybe the best option. And of course, we had also to consider that inside the Insule project we have some budget constraint to develop and install such battery. In that sense, we studied two scenarios, one via our modeling and simulation tool, one that was mostly related to the initially foreseen battery, and one to another battery with a power capacity of 0.4 megawatt and a energy capacity of 1.6 megawatt hour. Why 0.4 megawatt? Because this is the size actually of the interconnection point between Unije and the and the medium voltage cabling to the rest of the archipelago. So we thought that the power capacity should be, similar to that. We also analyzed the demand that, as you can see in this graph, that has a peak, of course, during the evening hours, the traditionally daily profile, and also we analyzed the the potential power supply from throughout the whole year, and the traditional demand throughout the whole year, seeing that of course a 1.2 megawatt PV power plant overcomes a lot the request of energy of Unije. So there was a discrepancy between the fact that obviously the daily demand of Unije was not was not aligned with the PV production, of course, of the PV plant, and also that generally speaking, all over the year there is an overproduction of the PV plant that can be effectively remunerated and managed. To size therefore in the best way the battery energy storage system, we first analyzed the demand. Unfortunately, the most recent demand data were quite aged, because we are talking about 2009, and so we decided to increase this demand, and we also decided to more or less try to study two scenarios, one based on this demand, the monitored demand, and one based on a more conservative case, considering the possibility that this demand can increase and so there could be a local demand up to 400 kilowatt as the interconnection point. What we analyzed is that the initially foreseen battery with, as we said, 1 megawatt and 1 megawatt hour of respectively energy and power capacity was quite oversized, particularly to manage the summer period, and at the same time was not able to cover the peak demand in winter period. So there was, you know, a lot during the winter period. There was, in any case, a request of electricity from the grid, and in the summer period, the battery was not able to fully cover the demand, because, you know, it can discharge quite rapidly. So there was an annual residual demand of more than 75 megawatt hour per year. In the scenario.
Excuse me, Stefano, to interrupt. Please, you have 1 minute left.
Yes, okay. While in the second scenario, we understood that according to a better sizing of both power and energy capacity, we reduced a lot the residual demand. So we obviously understood that even increasing the local demand, working with a more power capacity reduced of the battery energy storage system could be more profitable. Why this? Because of course we can reduce the residual demand to be purchased from the grid. So what are the conclusions? That generally speaking, what we can say is that a PV plus battery energy storage system solution can be easily replicated and designed both in connected island as Unije, but also in not connected one. What is very crucial is to always analyze not only the potential of the renewable potential on the island, but also the demand. It's very important to assess the demand, and not only assess the demand from a nearly or a only electric demand point of view, but also about it's also very important to assess the demand in terms of interconnection capacity. So this is very relevant in order to avoid any extra production not to be remunerated, and for example not to be exploited during summer period, where the excess of electricity can be, you know, quite effectively remunerated when the energy is better paid, let me say. One last point that I would like to mention is that it's very important also to take care of in Ireland of non-technological barriers. For example, what we are studying for this, that can be seen as a very simple and very easily replicable project, is the fact that on this island there is, for example, the presence of a natural heritage protected bird, and unfortunately this bird could be attracted somehow by the PV panels because it's hot, they are hot even during the night, etc. But this can, you know, hurt them. This can make have issues on the local fauna. So next steps, we hope to start soon the commissioning with REA and app, and you know, please keep updated about us in our social media and on our project website. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stefano, for the presentation. And I think the last thing you said about technological and non-technological barriers is quite interesting indeed. And so I see no questions for you in the question box for the moment, but in case another speaker wants to ask something, it's a good moment to do so. And if not, I'm going to give the presenter right to Sasha. So just a moment. Here you are. So Sasha Brooks from Unije is going to present the GIFT project, and in particular storage concepts and interoperability. Thank you, Sasha.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I hope the slides are on the screen now. Maybe just a note at the beginning, I come from the company Unije and not from the agency Unije that most of us know. So it's the same name, but completely different thing. Okay, let's start. Only a few facts about GIFT because I have quite a lot to present on the storage concepts that we use in the GIFT project. So quickly, we have, let's say, 2.5 demonstrator islands. I will show you why I say 2.5. We have 2 follower islands, 17 partners. We are aiming for 4 years of demonstration, and we are about 12 million in the budget terms. On the right side, you can see our, let's say, simplified architecture. We will return to this scheme a little bit later. Just quickly, what we do on the islands, we identified quite a severe need for optimizing the distribution grid. So on the top part of the scheme, you can see the distribution grid components, electricity grid components that, of course, identify any issues on the distribution grid. And on the bottom side, you can see the virtual power system as encompassing everything that is part of the solution. But let's return to this a little bit later. We have our objectives that stem from the call itself. So I guess there is some overlap here with our sister projects. For today, let's focus on first and the third objective. That's high level of renewable penetration support and synergies, or let's say multi-vector storage, or however you want to call it. We have 2.5 demonstrators. In Norway, actually, we have 2 islands that are interconnected with submarine cable, so that's why 2.5 there. And then there we have, in Italy, near to Napoli, we have an island of Procida. Quick fact about the demonstrators, they are both facing actually the congestion issues, as it's something that is quite common on the islands, but the reason for them is a little bit different. In Norway, there is quite a significant rise in the industry of fish farming that are now trying to connect to the grid, but due to congestion reasons, they are not allowed to. Whereas in Italy, the tourist season is the main factor of congestion, and that's why we chosen that location, let's say. Okay, but back to our topic for today. What is energy storage? I know most of you know this thing. It's not that technical in nature. It's capture of energy at one time when you have it. So, for example, during the day, for a use at a later time. Not all of us, I guess, are familiar with all of the important characteristics of the storage. So let me just quickly go through them. It's the capacity, so how much you can store in the storage itself. It's the power, where it tells you how much of that capacity can you extract per unit of time. It's ramp up and ramp down the constraints, so how fast can the storage react. Then it's the lifetime, so how long will it exist, and so on. Also, there is a decay between the charges and so on. And then there is the efficiency, how strong are the losses, let's say, when you count the whole cycle. Here we come to, let's say, more interesting part of the story. We consider a little bit different definition of what storage is. For us, we see 2 types of storage generally. We have an explicit storage, which is everything that you're familiar with, let's say, mechanical, hydropower pumping stations and so on, electrical like capacitors, chemical, batteries and so on, thermal, that's your domestic home water boiler and so on. Whereas there is another type of storage we call virtual, and this is storage created by changing the dynamics of a process. You might say this is somewhat similar to demand response, but I would say it's completely different story. Consider this line here on the scheme, production line. It's making automotives. You can change the planning of this production line according to the needs of the other, let's say, energy carrying media, and by changing that, you can create a virtual storage. Whereas in the demand response, basically you're delegating control to someone. In this case, you actually have your own business plan. You can change your, production schedule through the ERP and interconnected systems in order to create a storage that is basically in the warehouse, actual warehouse. And using that concept, you can actually provide for different types of storages. That's why I say here implicit conversion. You're converting your, let's say in this case, electricity to your warehouse material and the other way around. So I hope this concept is a little bit clearer now. If I go on, another important thing to consider is the dynamics, and that's where the use cases come into play. In this case, as I said before, we are mostly talking about distribution grids. We are talking about reaction times that are, okay, this is a little bit of stretch here, but we are talking about reaction times below 1 hour. So there is a lot of different types of storages that can act within 1 hour and the time of deliverance of the energy. Here are just a few examples of the storages, not too important because I have plenty to go on. So consider this one. We have a CHP. CHP is a cogeneration unit, combined heat and power, that produces heat and power. And usually runs on gas. So in this case, if I consider this unit to be offline, I'm actually supplying positive storage to the gas grid. But at the same time, I'm producing negative storage for example, in this case, district heating, and negative storage I'm not producing. Therefore, I'm producing negative storage for the electricity grid. But if I turn this unit on, then I'm actually consuming from the gas grid, obviously, and I'm supplying a positive storage. I'm filling in the district heating grid, and of course also electricity grid. That might be okay. That's it has only 3 dimensions in this case. But if I were to consider changing this standard CHP that runs on gas into I don't know, hydrogen-based CHP, where I have an electrolyzer, I have a fuel cell, and I have explicit storage for that. That's still within the same unit, can be within the same unit, or it could be distributed. Then I have my electricity grid. Usually it should come from PV or something to be green, where I create hydrogen. I store the hydrogen, and of course I can interconnect it to the gas grid, or I can use the hydrogen as a side product from some other process. And then I'm serving electricity grid. I'm, for example, reusing the oxygen that is a part of side product of this process. And I can also serve the district or local heating. So I will not go into different options of turning this on and off, but you can see this complexity of such a storage. So in order to manage such a storage, you need a concept that can address all of the components of it. So first of all, I will start at the end actually. You need a protocol, you need a standard for expressing different types of storages. And this is where our concept of flex offer, we call this de facto standard, comes into play. We can, with the same protocol, with the same concept of trading and so on, we can address any type of storage, from explicit storage, battery, to virtual storage, production line, or a combined, as it were here, hydrogen-based production/consumption unit. So with such a concept, you can actually address anything. Of course, when you talk about flexibility, flex offer trades flexibility, it's important to recognize that it's much more useful to go with trading than with management. Of course, demand side can be done with management or trading concepts, where if you go with trading, actually you can address more business cases, because you have your trading concept already online, and you can make sure that your system performs more reliable, because you know ahead of time how much flexibility, how much capacity in storage terms you have. This is just an example of our flex offer. It can describe any amount of capacity or any dynamics of a process. And it's now, I think it's being used by like 10 projects and also 2 products that are close to the market. Here is just, if I return a little bit to our GIFT project, we have some initial results already. So there are, the project is still underway, but the idea here is to run all the units that we will deploy and also the units that we find on the field in the same manner using the flex offer. And you can see on the top chart that they can behave in a coordinated manner, even if they are just a small units. So if I return to our GIFT project and I ask myself here, where is our storage? if I go on the bottom part of the picture here, you can see that there are several types of storages. So let me start on the left. We have eFerry as one of the suppliers of the flexibility. We have several EV charging stations. We have actually we have that unit that I've described before, so that one, hydrogen-based CHP. We have a flow battery. We will connect several fish farms to supply the flexibility. Hospitals, buildings, hotels, sewage treatment plant, and so on. So whatever we can find and combine it with the things that we deployed as part of the project. So in a coordinated manner, they will actually support the operation of distribution grid on the island. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Sasha, for this very interesting presentation. Is there any questions from the speakers? I see no questions from attendees, but if other speakers want to ask a question, do not hesitate.
Can I pose a question? Can I pose a question to Sasha?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Stefano, good afternoon. Regarding the eFerry, how you are considering to use it in a sort of vehicle to grid approach, or only as a sort of static battery?
Well, it's a really tricky. Yeah. Okay, the process itself is quite complex because it's not only the eFerry that has a battery on the eFerry itself. There are also two shore batteries involved there, because eFerry has to charge really quickly before between the unloading and loading. So there are explicit batteries there. So the process itself is quite complex already with 3 batteries involved. But additionally to that, you can also charge your EV on the ferry itself. So there's a link to transportation there that you have to optimize or include in this process. So it's really complex prosumer, let's say. But yeah, something like that, 3 batteries, and also considering the schedule of the ferry and so on. So it's quite interesting story.
Thank you.
Thank you for this question and answer. So now I propose to give the floor to Ugo Simeoni.
Yes.
From European Turbine Network. And yeah, Ugo is going to present Robinson.
Hello, Sophie. Hello, everyone. I trust you can hear me well.
Yes.
Thanks for inviting me, and it's really a pleasure for me to join this panel. Very interesting discussion so far. So I'm going to present you the Robinson projects, which actually started only a month ago on the 1st of October. So it's a very new project. Not so much has been done so far, but I'm happy to present you what are our objectives. So the Robinson stands for Smart Integration of Local Energy Sources and Innovative Storage for Flexible, Secure and Cost-Efficient Energy Supply on Industrialized Islands. The project aims to help the decarbonization of industrial islands by developing an intelligent, robust and flexible energy management system and integrating different energy vectors such as electricity, heat and gas. It will be demonstrated in Egeroy, an island in Norway, and there will be 2 virtual demonstrations on the island of for the islands of Crete in Greece and the Western Islands in Scotland. We have 18 partners joining this project from 10 European countries, and the total budget of the project is about 8.37 million euro. So as you can see on the right side on the picture, we are going to consider several systems, several technologies, all integrated in one system and managed by one energy management system. And you can see that also all the technologies are connected with either electricity grid or the local gas grid or the district heating and cooling grid. So the aim is really to reduce to the minimum the use of fossil fuel, which at the moment is used natural gas, especially for the new industries that have been installed on the island, the fish industries. And to replace the use of this natural gas fuel with biogas, with hydrogen, that will be basically generated with the excess of renewables and the biogas from the waste wood, and also from biogas coming from the waste generated from the fish industry. So as I said before, the project will start on the started on the 1st of October 2020 and will run till the 30th September 2024. There will be on the first in 1 year we will start the development and adaptation of the energy management system, and the last year then we will operate the system in the industrial environment on the island of Eggeroi. The specific objectives are, I divided here in four. One is technological objectives, and this is about optimize and validate and integrate innovative technologies such as a micro gas turbines that will be able to burn hydrogen, natural gas, and biogas. So very fuel flexible and also load flexible. And the other technology that will be developed will be the energy management system. As I said, we will demonstrate the project on the island of Eggeroi during the last year, and replicate also at lab level the conditions and the operation of the system in the island of Crete and in the Western Islands. Of course, we will have some objectives related to the human health and environment, system cost competitiveness, and business models that I will show you will give you more details just after. In terms of technology development, these are the technologies that we are going to basically take into consideration in our system. The energy management system is one of the key technologies to be developed, and the core of the system that will manage all the other technologies. We will install and we develop and install a modified combined heat and power system. It's a microgas turbine. Also, we will develop an anaerobic digester that will take the waste from the fish industry and transform it into usable methane for the CHP unit. A wind turbine, small wind turbine, innovative wind turbine, will be installed on the island, and also this will be installed a small electrolyzer for the conversion of electricity into hydrogen, and they are already installed on the island PV panels, some storage in terms of thermal storage, and the gasifier. So these are some data about the demo islands of Eggeroi. It's an island of about 20 square kilometers with 2,500 inhabitants. It's the characteristics of this island is that basically it's a very industrial oriented island. So there is one industry, as I said, already there, the fish industry, but in the coming years, the future plan of the island is to install additional industries. So the energy demand will increase. At the moment, the island is connected to the grid, so it is 100% fed by the main grid, which is also in Norway. Basically, the electricity generated comes from hydropower, and but the future plan is also not to because of additional industries and so additional energy demand is not basically to reinforce the electrical grid with the main grid, but to become independent from the mainland. So this shows what is the interconnections also between the different technologies and also the energy vectors. So yeah, this is the pilot plant will be installed in the premises of the Prima Protein, which is the fish industry, and it will reach, as I said, TRL 7. The two replication islands, also in this case we have Crete, which is quite big islands with at the moment the electricity generated is about 3 terawatt-hour in 2018, and 80% was produced by fossil fuel power plants. So also the objective of these islands to become obviously to be decarbonized, and this could be done by the implementation and deployment of the energy management system that we will develop in Robinson. The same for the Western Islands. Also, the electricity generated is, of course, is a smaller island than Crete. Is more comparable to the Aegean Islands in terms of weather condition, but also in terms of energy use. So also here we will replicate the activities. And here there are some information about the consortium. We have 3 municipalities representing the 3 islands, 4 companies, small and medium enterprises, and 3 largest enterprises. And then we have some 4 research and technology organizations and 3 universities and 1 association. Well, the expected impact I think the key for this project. So of course this what you see here on the left is the primary energy sources to cover the heat demand in Aegean. This is at the moment, as you can see, the heat is mainly covered by the use of liquefied natural gas, and at the end of the projects we already are aiming at introducing and covering part of this heat demand by syngas and biogas, and very small share of hydrogen. And the final objective of the municipality will be by 2030 to completely get rid of the LNG and burn all syngas, biogas, and hydrogen. And at the bottom, then you can see also what will be and what we are will be the share of different energy sources for the island. So there will be partially hydropower. This will be from the main grid, then heat from the CHP and electricity, and part of the part from the wind. So in this way, let's say the other the environmental impacts, then by implementing the energy management system and the technologies developed in Robinson, the aim would be to cut up to 90% of the CO2 emissions. So to reduce also the losses via integrated management of the distributed energy resources technologies, but also to valorize the waste and use also the local wood biomass, which at the moment instead is shipped to other islands. Finally, in terms of costs, savings, and economic benefits, the plan, as I mentioned at the beginning, is to avoid that there is a further expansion of the main grid, due to the fact that the plan of the island is to install other industries. So if by implementing this Robinson system, the money that would be saved would be around from 6.1 up to 12.2 million euro, to avoiding an expensive extension of transmission grid. And also by phasing out the fossil fuels, or the LNG, there would be a potential avoided CO2 taxes that would cost about 400,000 euro per year. And also, of course, there are some other economic benefits and cost savings, like the implementation of industrial symbiosis concept, harvest otherwise waste energy and supply, reutilization of byproducts such as oxygen, and system cost competitive in comparison to alternatives like, for example, batteries. So this is it. Thank you for the listening and time. Not sure if there is any question. I'm
yes, so
happy
thanks
to take
for
it.
your presentation. And yes, there is a question for you, but I think actually you have already answered it in one of the last slides. So the question is the biogas also coming from trees or only from waste products, as already mentioned?
So yes, there are basically there is waste wood available on the island, which at the moment is exported, and the aim is to use this waste wood and produce biogas. But there is also methane that will be biomethane that will be produced by the waste of the fish industries. So there will be two different type of biogas and syngas that will feed the combined heat and power system. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Hugo. And there is another question for you. Yeah. Why is the wind turbine innovative?
The wind turbine is a new concept of wind turbine that will have two basically arms and smaller, and will be like not the usual, let's say, layout or design of the turbine, but this will be with two extensions that can change the angle of opening, and can also be less, let's say, more accepted from the social point of view. So it's the partner that will develop this turbine is REST. It's a new concept, and yeah, we are going to install. There was an agreement with the municipality of Aigroi to install this new turbine in the premises also of Prima, and connect it with the energy management system.
Okay, thanks, Hugo, for this answer. So let's move to the next presentation, and I'm sorry because we are a bit late. So I'm giving the floor again to Stefano Barberis, and he's going to present this time the SMILE project.
Good afternoon again. So I think you can see my screen. Not yet in presentation mode. Okay, perfect. So here I'm now presenting the SMILE project, that is coordinated this time by RINA Consulting, and with a focus more specifically on electromobility and how electromobility can facilitate the penetration of renewables in the three different landscapes of the three different SMILE lighthouse island. Generally speaking, SMILE has been the first Horizon 2020 project focused on smart grids and smart energy transition of islands, funded in the Horizon 2020 framework, and we are working to demonstrate solutions that promote demand response schemes and storage and energy system integration in three large-scale islands. One is Orkney in the UK, Samso in Denmark, and again Madeira in Portugal. These three islands have very different situation. For example, the fact that Madeira is completely disconnected from the grid, while Samso and Orkney are connected to the national grid, but the three of them has very high shares of renewable. You have to consider that Samso has been recently awarded as one of the most virtuous islands in Europe for this topic, or the fact that in the Orkney there is a super high production of wind from offshore, local offshore wind that unfortunately is often curtailed by the grid operator. So there is the idea that these three islands has a great already great renewable power production implemented, and the three of them are going to develop different solutions to facilitate such renewable exploitation. Among the solution that we are planning, there is also the possibility to work on electromobility, and but not only. We are also working on, as I said, other type of storage solution like traditionally battery or thermal storage coupled to heat pump and electric heaters, but also the possibility to work on electrolyzer. Always, all these assets, both the generation and the storage one, are always managed by a smart energy management system. I will focus in my presentation today strongly on how electromobility, and when we say electromobility in SMILE, we talk about electric boats and cars, how electromobility can facilitate renewable penetration in island, and how the solution demonstrated in SMILE Lighthouse Highland could be easily replicated all around Europe. Let's start from SAMSO. As I said, SAMSO is already a very virtuous island, but is looking for a solution to better use the green electricity produced on the island, both in summer and winter period. When during the summer period, you have to consider that the island is doubling the number of inhabitants, particularly also attracting a lot of sailors, because it's an island very attractive for ship owners. And at this purpose, the overall goal of SAMSO SMILE demonstration is also to install battery solution at local level to facilitate renewable management, avoiding curtailment, and also using the particularly the Ballar Marina, which is the port, the touristic port of SAMSO, as a sort of storage. Indeed, inside the SMILE project, we had the chance to equip the Ballar Marina with several clean energy solutions, like enlarging the local photovoltaic production, equipping the local houses, the local facilities with heat pumps, but most of all, having the chance to use 340 sockets for electrical connection of boats in collaboration with the local battery energy storage system towards the maximization of locally produced PV generation, and thus avoiding any type of curtailment, or and generally speaking also thus avoiding particularly what SAMSO colleagues informed us is that once all the ship owners, the sailboat owners comes back to the island, there was usually a quite peak demand of all the ships, all the sailboats connecting back to the socket on the mooring, on the decks, on the piers of the marina, thus creating a peak of demand. And thanks to the collaboration between the batteries, the big battery that has been installed in the marina and the battery of the boats, this peak demand has been shaved. The second test case that I would like to present you is related to Orkney. As I said, Orkney has a strong, a very large wind production that is currently curtailed by the grid operator. To do so, it's very important to operate also not only at big and large battery energy storage system, as we saw in Unije, but also maybe to maximize the possibility to use this renewable power to, for example, alleviate fuel poverty and, for example, develop an electromobility and electric vehicles on the island. We have to consider that to promote electromobility in Orkney, we have to choose two parallel approaches. One approach more targeting residents residents owners of electrical vehicles, and the second approach of tourists that can come. To do so and to maximize and optimize the charging of electric vehicles present in Orkney. The electric vehicle charging station have been embedded and have been managed by an energy management system that is fully operating the local grid and this electric grid management system is named Kaluza, provided by OVO Energy, one of the partners of the project, and it dialogues with the vehicles with two different approaches. One more for residents that is based mostly on the possibility to monitor the habits of the residents via a telematics box. So via a sort of black box that is mounted on all the electric vehicles of residents in Orkney, and give the possibility to Kaluza to evaluate when the cars will arrive to the charging station, and their, for example, habits in terms of routing, and so the minimum state of charge that has to be guaranteed to each vehicle. A little bit different is when the electric vehicle charger has to interface with tourists, so not resident. In that sense, what is promoted is an app that is required to be used by tourists owning an electric vehicle to be driven and to be traveling on Orkney. This app is again able to monitor the movements and the intentions of routing of the tourists, and again in that case provide relevant information to Kaluza, that in that case is able again to understand when to smart charge the cars, the vehicles, in accordance to the need of the local grid and the risk of curtailment from the local renewable. The third example of how electromobility can facilitate renewable penetration on island is from Madeira. Madeira, we have to consider that has already a significant solar capacity, but the new solar capacity in this moment cannot be further installed. Otherwise, the grid that is completely isolated could be too much congested. In that sense, it's very important that in the case of a new solar or renewable installation, this renewable installation has to be dedicated fully to a local end user. One of them could be, for example, the fleet of a local touristic service provider that is promoting these electric tuk-tuk tours all around the island of Madeira. And thanks to the collaboration between Electricidade de Madeira and Tuxi Tours, that is the local touristic fleet manager, it is possible now in Madeira to monitor the routing of the different electric tuk-tuk, and monitor more or less the habits of the tourists, that which type of places they would like to see and which type of routing is traditionally required, and in that sense better understand when to charge the tuk-tuk. And as this is a sort of fleet, so an aggregated type of vehicle, this type of charging is obviously easier than vehicles that are managed by single drivers. So in conclusion, what we can say,
I just wanted to invite you to conclude.
What we can say in the conclusion is that electromobility can of course play a relevant role to facilitate renewable integration and also to reduce islander fuel bills, because we are all aware that the cost of oil and fuel is higher on island. Generally speaking, it's very important when we work and we design an electromobility solution for island to take into account grid stability aspects, as in Madeira and Orkney, and at the same time also to predict what could be the charging period patterns, also considering that tourist and resident habits could be very different, as we are doing in Orkney. One aspect that we are not working in this project is, of course, the possibility to use local public transport and electrify them. Again, because in managing an electric fleet, could make this integration easier. Unfortunately, we are not yet doing so in our Lighthouse Island, but we hope that maybe the who is following us and the follower island of other projects can be inspired by our solution. Please follow us on our website and social media, and then if you have any question, more than happy to provide you some answer.
Great, thanks Stefano for this very interesting presentation. I see no question in the question box, but do we have some questions from the other speakers? So if not, I propose to give the floor to React, the React project that's going to be presented by Thomas NESOI and by Andrew Barney. So I'm sharing presenter rights with you, Tom. Please,
hello.
Go ahead. Oh,
Do you hear me okay?
no, we cannot see full screen. We can see your, yes, now it's better.
No, it's perfect. Hi, Tom and I are going to be talking about React's energy transition on renewable island citizen engagement today. We'll go quickly through some of the theory and then we'll jump into what React has actually done. Okay, Tom? So what is React? React is a 4-year research project funded by the EU's Horizon 2020 program. It has the overall goal of 100% energy autonomy for these islands through an ICT solution which integrates high flexibility distributed generation technologies, demand response, and energy storage. The project has 3 demonstration islands on which the goal is to distribute the React or deploy the React solution and achieve 60% greenhouse gas emission reductions and energy cost reductions, as well as a 10% reduction in energy. So once we've got the demonstration ones in place, we're hoping to replicate it to 5 follower islands. And we'll talk more about those islands in a little bit. But first, let's look at what we're going to be focusing on today. Tom? This is a good visual representation of the React project. On the left-hand side, we see energy storage, energy planning and management, energy generation. While on the right-hand side, we see everything that's going on in the background. We're not going to look at each of these points because we just don't have time. We're going to focus in on, as stated before, the islands, residents, and engagement interaction. And we're going to touch back a little bit on demand response because the two are very closely related. Okay, Tom? These are the islands involved in the React project. The islands on the left, the pilot islands, are La Graciosa, San Pietro, and the Aran Islands, while the islands on the right are the follower islands, and they are Gotland, Lesbos, Isle of Wight, Majorca, and Reunion Island. The islands are quite well spread out and represent a good take from the islands within the EU, and hopefully are representative for further replication. Okay, Tom? So let's get into the meat of what we're talking about, the theory behind why React is doing what it's doing. And it's doing the community engagement it's doing is because it needs to involve the people living on the island, not just from the sense that we need to install these renewable energy solutions and storage options, but we also need to get them engaged in the demand response programs for the project to reach its goals. Properly engaging them is very important, not just for the success of the 4-year project, but also going forward and replicating the project beyond these 4 years and beyond the 5 follower islands. Okay, Tom? So the first steps of the React project were to establish a generally applicable criteria for recruiting the islanders to become participants on the demo islands. And then, once we had that criteria, to go in and develop community-based action and materials that would best attract and engage the islanders we have put the criteria for to become participants in the demonstrations. We then use these users to gather data on their practices at the specific locations, and then to guide our demand response strategy. Next slide, Tom. Using the user-centered design. This feeds in to an ongoing relationship with the users. So they feed in their information, and then we further analyze what they're doing and come up with a new and hopefully improved strategy that we can continue sharing and using in other places as well. Next slide, Tom. The last slide I'm going to talk about is just a general timescale of the React project's engagement. The first stage, which is we've completed at this point, we're in the second year now, was going out and getting an idea of what the community needed from us, and then letting the community know who we were and what we could do for them. Stage 2 happened at the same time as stage 1, but we started going out and recruiting people and saying, hey, this is what we can do for you. Would you like to be a part of it? And then raise the awareness and get them engaged in what we were doing. And this became easier, or will become easier, once we start showing them the potential of the React solution, and we give them feedback like, this is what we've done with the people that are engaged in the project. And it doesn't just stop at the 6 month. We continue engaging with the community, both locally and then hopefully in the follower island, showing this is what we've done here on the demo islands, and this is what we can do on your islands. And we can project that forward to the end of the project and hopefully beyond. Okay, Tom, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Andrew. I'll turn on my camera. I'll switch to the next slide. You were perfectly at 5 minutes, so wow, we agreed to do 5 minutes each. Andrew, you excellent work. In the second half of this presentation, I'll go through some of our findings and progress, and maybe there's a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, given that it's Halloween personality in this presentation, where Andrew was theoretical and optimistic, and I'll be pessimistic and realistic. So our findings and our progress. We've done survey, we've had some strategy or the communication campaigns. I'll show you some of our visual materials. And one graph here, this is a survey, and I think it's interesting because often in projects we're encouraged to take a look at gender bias. No one really understands what that is, but it's right on this slide actually. And at the root of it is, do we as men and women feel, perceive, or respond differently to different things? So here, this is a model. All the graphs I'll show is done by Tracy Crosby at Teesside University and her team, of course, and with the consortium. Into this model, she's looking at the variables here of how familiar are you with smart grid concepts across age, coupled to levels of education. And the number of respondents is the numbers on the left. And then if you read the graph, blue and orange mean we've never really heard of it. So the older you are, the less you've heard about the smart grid, and that also couples to your level of education, which is intuitive, but here it is in the survey respondents that we collected and ran. The survey was run to 179 residents, 31 questions. There are 81 variables that were within that survey. Running the survey, we have 2 smaller islands, and San Pietro is a larger island, about 5,000 people. So in San Pietro, Calaforte, in Sardinia, we collected 77 surveys, but that's 3% of the population. But on the other islands, here in the Aran Islands, we actually captured 35% of the population. Some key findings from that, we have a public report on this. It's a nice report, and there's a nice methodology there. It's called Deliverable 4.2 in EU speak. The name of the report is User Engagement Approach. It will be hung on our webpage as soon as the commission completes its review process, which is currently ongoing. So I would say probably in 1 month, we should have that on the webpage. So some of the key findings from the people living on the islands are here. The good points: people are highly motivated, especially to have financial savings, and they are prepared to change their energy use behaviors, but they're unlikely to be motivated by any community-based competition. So sometimes in local energy communities, you perform this much better than your neighbor, or make it a sports thing. And the respondents we got, we didn't appreciate that concept. People are quite or not familiar with smart grid concepts or demand response. And for us, if we're working on research projects, of course, these things are familiar to us. But as we're looking at all of these beautiful pictures of islands, it's not on the first, thought every day of in all places. And people are not very willing to have their homes changed for all these new concepts. So we did home energy displays telling what they're doing every 10 seconds and turn off that light because you're wasting energy. They were against that. A couple other nice graphs from the study, and the conclusions here are coupled with the graphs. So the knowledge of demand response technologies with age, this is the percent on the left, and that percentage of people aware of demand response technologies is higher in the more educated group and decreases with age. Demand response acceptance versus education, and our model shows that the higher education, the more likely you are to embrace it, to include your flexibility to use it. So the more you know about this, the more you're, and intuitively this is correct, the more likely you're willing to embrace such technologies. And what this graph shows, again, focusing on the orange and the gray in this case, coupled to being, am I willing to change my behaviors and adjust my heating and cooling, turning it off and on, or adjusting the temperature? And the higher your energy bill, the more motivated you are to adjust your temperatures. And that makes sense to me too. I believe that. I do the same thing. So in the conclusion of her report, in the report, the user engagement strategy, there are some best practices. So in developing an engagement strategy, it has to be appropriate to the island's context, considering local language and age of residents and their education levels, tailored to the level of familiarity of the people you're engaging. Education is important. Sophie, I'm going to go for about another 3 minutes, just so you know. Communication routes and the financial benefits should be communicated alongside the environmental and social benefits. Impact on user engagement for design of demand response, they shouldn't disrupt people. It is the end of the story, and you should have override when that's appropriate. And people should be able to opt out. Just some flashes, good literature to engage people, translated into local languages, video campaigns showing what's going on with people. We have a YouTube channel you can go and watch. On the islands, we've done video interviews and we've made them film stars for a day, and they've all enjoyed that. And we're repeating that across all of our pilots. We've gotten into the local media, so we do publish out into the newspapers, trying to get information out in all of the various channels. So those are some of the parts of the user engagement strategy. But then, you know, my favorite part of the presentation is this one. It's the value action gap. So let's say we engage everybody and everybody knows, but we have this problem, you know, is that well, 70% of people claim that they want to do better with the environment. It's only 5% that actually do it. I mean, if you want to be real about it. And if you look at how compliant people are with wearing their masks, my goodness, in our office, we have to hit people over the head each day to try to keep their masks on, etc. So my point here is we can do all the nice research that we want to do, but unless you have a blunt force weapon trying to get these things done in practice, it is challenging, and we work on that every day. So I'll give you one example of how this could work. Italy might become a beacon, an example, a trailblazer, a lighthouse, which makes us proud in Italy, on maybe getting this done. So you need supporting policy. So now, for the first time in Italy, you can self-consume between shared walls. So if I share a wall with you, we can exchange energy, and that is because 60% of our population lives in condominiums. And you can also transfer tax credits between consumer to business and business to business. So it's about 10 years now where if I replace my windows or change my lights or get a new energy efficient system in my house, that I can take some incentives on that, 50, 65%. I can spread them over my taxes for 5 years. Now I can pass that to the company I'm buying those things from. And that has unlocked new business models. Incentives, we now have in place the super bonus, 110%. Where if you improve the energy classification of your building by 2 levels, then the cost for that, some of the cost, the envelope, not everything, not the solar panels, not certain things, but many of them you can actually make money on, in theory, over time, spread across your taxes. 10 years as an individual, 5 years as a business. So if I'm an individual at 10, I can pass it to a business at 5. Okay, then to get it done, what else do you need? These are all the things that you need. Again, hands-free technological solutions. So we need interoperable technology. So we're doing a lot of work in the project that our smart meter has to talk to our smart storage system, which has to talk to the solar panel, which has to talk to the heat pump that's connected to the HVAC unit. And they all have cloud to cloud and systems now. So who's the slave and who's the master and how they talk is not intuitively obvious. And it's a battle space right now because everybody wants to have market leadership. So there are alliances and partnerships forming, and we're doing the same thing. But when you get a cluster of these things working together, then you can offer a turnkey bundled solution, because that's what people want. They don't want to try to buy everything one by one and figure out how to use it. They just want someone to come in and make it work. And for that to happen, you need to have business partnerships, because not many people are organized structurally to do all of these things at the same time. But you know who is? Anil. And Anil is the ones that are going to try to stop doing this for as long as they can, because they make money on the status quo. So all of the small innovative companies need to band together, and people that want to break into Anil's market, new energy companies or more agile energy companies, are going to be partnering with these technology firms to deliver new solutions in new ways. So here's an example.
And we have to conclude. We have to conclude this presentation. So I give you 15 seconds.
If you ever wanted to know anything about this, contact us. So a smart condo. We'll stick solar on the roof. Now you can share that solar between everybody in the building. If you have a smart meter that records who got what and how much, you can change the energy contract to a smart contract having one point of delivery, and you can do that fiscally. And if you do the envelope retrofit at the same time, you can bundle it all as one package and put it into the super bonus program and not even pay for it, because you can pass the tax credits to an ESCO. And this is exactly what our ESCO is setting out to do in Sardinia. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, and sorry for interrupting, but we are running out of time, so I'm sorry for this. I'm not a good timekeeper, I'm afraid. So this is the end of session 2. We had 5 very interesting presentations from 5 projects. And Elena, can you please launch poll number 2 to conclude this session, and then we will discuss about the 2 other topics that we have. So just to give the floor to the audience, so we would like to ask you, for which technology would the role of islands as living labs, also for mainland applications, be the most effective? So please, if you have any view on the topic, please select an answer. So some people are voting, but this takes time. Okay, so not everybody has voted, but still I propose to close the poll and show the results. So at the moment, the technologies that are the most promising for also mainland applications, according to respondents, it's mainly smart grids, energy communities, peer-to-peer trading, and other technologies are less often selected. So, well, it's a good transition also to the next session. So we, in principle, we should have 30 minutes, but we have only 15 minutes to discuss about these 2 topics, so 7-8 minutes each. So if we can remove the poll, Elena, and come back to my presentation. I can do myself. Yes. And so let's go to session 3 and the topic 1, how to engage island during the energy transition. So it was the topic already presented by Andrew, but it would be good also to hear the views of the other speakers on this. What do you think, Andrew?
Absolutely. I think we should carry the torch on user engagement forward here and engaging islanders. And my question I guess I have a couple questions here. We went over how React does it, and I'm curious how the other projects are doing it. Do you have any thoughts on React steps, those also in the project? Anything you've taken away from your own strategies that you think would be good to share?
Well,
Especially you, from Smile, right?
I can share what we did in both Smile and Insule, two quite different approach. So in Insule, we had the chance to have local workshops, both with citizens and key stakeholders like public authorities and also private authorities like, who manage the port authority, etc. in the island, the energy provider, etc. And engaging both public and private authorities, that's been easier to engage the local islanders. Our experience is that every time you touch the topic that energy transition can make the island, can add the value to the island, this touch the sense of belonging of the islanders, which is very strong, and so reinforce the sense of community, etc. So this is the approach also via our physical workshop where we promote the energy transition in the Lighthouse Island in this way.
So you push strongly then the concept of community, then improvement of the local community.
Exactly, the sense of community is the base.
Anything from the other projects?
Well, on the gift, let me just, can you see me? I have a problem with my camera, I guess. Okay, it should be on. Right, we went similar way actually in gift, so local community engagement, local videos with potential prosumers and so on, that has gotten some attention. What I would mention here is really, it's a completely different thing to engage, let's say, end user to engaging, I don't know, a company or industrial prosumer. So with them, you have to be a little bit different. You have to show them some potential savings or additional earnings and so on. So your technology is not only targeting then in our case, the flexibility, the extraction of flexibility of that concrete prosumer, but must also earn them some money right away, not after 10 years, right away. So they have to see a value even before you start earning money with flexibility. So that might be additional challenge then.
Keeping them engaged by keeping it financially interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I don't know that we have time for much more, do we, Sophie? Or?
Well, perhaps we have 1 or 2 minutes. Andrew, can we launch the poll we have prepared?
Yeah, let's launch the poll.
Elena, Elena, you can launch poll number 3. So Andrew, perhaps you want to read it.
Okay, what do you think is the most effective way to engage people in energy transition projects? Town hall, other meetings, social media, online connections, one-on-one discussions, press releases, local news, and then in this last box, we're giving you the opportunity to mark it as other and then throw it in the chat question. And then we can just see if anybody has something that is outside these 4 above. I can't actually see when people have answered, so you'll let me know.
Yeah, so there are already some answers, not from everybody, but at the moment, the first answer, the town hall or other meetings, is the most popular answer. And we have no other suggestions. So I'm going to close the poll, even though not everybody has voted, and we can share the results.
Okay, so town hall meetings, that's the most effective way. I have to say I'm surprised that one-on-one discussions wasn't higher, because I would think that's the best, but at the same time, it's maybe not the most efficient. Any other thoughts from the other projects on this? Tom?
Yeah, I simply wanted to add that we're getting some wind at our backs because everyone is talking about COVID and the recovery and link the recovery to sustainability because the next crisis is the climate crisis. in Italy, where I was mentioning, you can't go a day in the paper without reading about this super bonus because it's always being debated in the government and everybody's talking about incentives and the time to act is now. So instead of people receiving us as spam, people actually are a little bit more willing to open the door to have the conversation. So the point I'm making is the importance of policy level, big high level stuff happening in the country that reinforces and sends this message before you ever get there, and it is so critical. So this is the point I wanted to make there.
Thanks to both, and sorry that we have to stop already if we want to save some time for the next topic. So thank you very much for sharing your experience.
Thank you,
and let's move to the other topic: how to stimulate islands' long-term energy strategy.
Thank you. Can you give me a presenter, right? I have just 2 slides for this.
Sure. Here we go.
Okay. Well, okay, the question is like Sophie mentioned, but if I translate it, it really means what happens after our projects end? So to put it so bluntly. Let me start by mentioning our common goals. I think all of the projects, that goes for even other projects, not island-oriented projects, but nevertheless, I think we have a few common goals that we heard also today. So we all want to improve somehow the environmental situation on the islands through, I don't know, demonstration, replication, raising awareness, and so on. Then we want to further innovate our technologies. Of course, we are at certain TRLs. At some point, we want to start new development cycles and so on. For the companies, that means that they want to put new products on the market. For universities and so on, they share knowledge, educate, and so on. So I have here a list of 5 questions. You can read them yourself. I will maybe mention a few of them. The idea is to think about, not to answer right away, but to think about how to make this story more sustainable. So not only from project to project, maybe the first question here is the most important one: how to anchor yourself being either technology supplier or the project of whatever consortium, to anchor yourself into long-term strategy of that specific island, long-term energy strategy in this concrete case. Maybe the third one is also important for us, since we are mostly innovation action projects that end at somewhere 7 or 8 on the TRL scale. How to make that last mile to the market, what to do, how to start earning money, to be completely honest. So maybe comments on this. I would first like to hear from other projects, and I can comment how we did it before and how we are doing now. Anything?
If you want, I can share my
Yes, thanks, Hugo.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know if it was Thomas or me. Yeah, so in the case of Robinson, we have taken the inputs from the municipality, so involved directly the municipality, having seen what is the long-term plan of the municipality, and adapted also the project based on what is their long-term plan, and also involve the industries. So this was so that the plan of the industry and the municipality and also the DSOs in the case of the islands, these were all aligned. And there is a part of the project which I was not able to go deep in details, but some of the technologies that will be installed in the Robinson projects are not funded under the from the Horizon 2020, but there is an agreement between the industries and the technology manufacturers, so to install the technologies. And so that's a way forward that we identified for ensuring that after the project there would be deployment of the technologies and use of the technology.
Mm-hmm.
Well, from our side, what I can tell from Smile is that in all the free demo site, as I presented, we are testing solutions that are completely driven by the local grid needs. So in all the free demos, we have the grid operator involved, and they are, providing data and also touching the effect of the solution. So at the end of the day, the most effective one will be probably replicated by the local grid operator. So having, of course, on board the local energy provider, the local grid operator is, in my opinion, the turnkey to make a potential replication of the solution demonstrated.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
I wanted to make a remark on we in our first survey, I think it was, we heard how the energy transition plan was a key document. I wanted to couple that concept with often you're working with elected officials, and elections can really change the people you're working with on the island and whether or not you can do something. So what can last? These energy transition plans can last. And one way to get people around these energy transition plans and to help them turn it into concrete, actionable actions and investments is a digital twin. So we're working in our pilot in the React project, we've made a digital twin of Carloforte. And what that allows us to do is we understand at the moment what amount of renewable energy is being produced on that island and how far they have to go to be energy independent. And with a few clicks of the button in a simulation tool, we can help them understand, well, that could mean if you covered this amount of square meters, 85% of the homes in Carloforte, you would be energy independent as an island. Or if you installed a certain amount of wind turbines, or if you retrofitted a renovation campaign across this many buildings that improved the envelopes in such a way, or any combination of measures. So what we found is that a digital twin can actually be a tool with some visual aids and graphics that helps any planner, any elected official understand so that they can get people around these concepts. And that digital twin can last in time beyond or across elections because it can be something that's used. And what that takes is someone has to embrace the island, because an island is a small market. It's not that a big player can, grow a company by focusing on one island. They have to have a way to do it across multiple islands. So also islands need companies to take an interest in them and stick with them across time is what the message to convey.
Mm-hmm. Okay, maybe a thought from my side. What we did already in a previous project, GoFlex, and we are continuing this in the gift as well, is we, before the end of the project, we try to construct something we call extended observation. So what that means is after the end of the project, we don't stop working. We find a way for in this case, the DSO or whatever partner you have for demonstration starts earning concrete money. It does not necessarily have to be money as an income. It can be avoided cost. I don't know, whatever floats the boat, so to say, on the island. So if you find a suitable business model within the project, you can make sure that you will find some way to finance what we call extended observation, and make sure that the technology that you deployed is used to do something great, let's say, and not die with the project. Whatever. So
thank you very much
we're out of time.
Thanks for this last statement, Sasho. I think indeed it is what we all wish. That's what we are doing in this EU project. In fact, really serve the future and is used also after the end of the project. So we are, yes, it's 3 p.m. exactly. So I would like all speakers to switch on their camera so that I can take a last picture with everybody. I would like to thank the speakers. Yes, here we are, all of us. So thank you very much for your active participation. Many thanks to Elena for technical support. Many thanks to the attendees for staying until the end. And it was very interesting. We had very interesting discussions and presentations. So thanks again and have a nice afternoon. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.